Manhood Tree Podcast is an extension of all the Manhood Tree initiatives. It's like an opportunity for us to talk freely about the things that we might discuss in group, that we might learn at the men's health events, that we might talk about in our fatherhood monologues, or even brotherhood yoga. It's a free form interview conversation with men in our community that we discuss manhood stuff. We try to keep it lighthearted, but also very serious because the topics that we're talking about are important. And I think that we are trying to create a platform for men to have serious discussions, good discussions about things that maybe we wouldn't normally talk about. So join us every Tuesday, 6 p.m. on Facebook. And if you'd like to be on the show, send us a message. The Manhood Tree Podcast is an extension of all the Manhood Tree initiatives. It's like an opportunity for us to talk freely about the things that we might discuss in group, that we might learn at the men's health events, that we might talk about in our fatherhood monologues, or even brotherhood yoga. It's a free form interview conversation with men in our community that we discuss manhood stuff. We try to keep it lighthearted, but also very serious because the topics that we're talking about are important. And I think that we are trying to create a platform for men to have serious discussions, good discussions about things that maybe we wouldn't normally talk about. So join us every Tuesday, 6 p.m. on Facebook. And if you'd like to be on the show, send us a message. The Manhood Tree Podcast is an extension of all the Manhood Tree initiatives. It's like an opportunity for us to talk freely about the things that we might discuss in group, that we might learn at the men's health events, that we might talk about in our fatherhood monologues, or even brotherhood yoga. It's a free form interview conversation with men in our community that we discuss manhood stuff. We try to keep it lighthearted, but also very serious because the topics that we're talking about are important. And I think that we are trying to create a platform for men to have serious discussions, good discussions about things that maybe we wouldn't normally talk about. So join us every Tuesday, 6 p.m. on Facebook. And if you'd like to be on the show, send us a message. The Manhood Tree Podcast is an extension of all the Manhood Tree initiatives. It's like an opportunity for us to talk freely about the things that we might discuss in group, that we might learn at the men's health events, that we might talk about in our fatherhood monologues, or even brotherhood yoga. It's a free form interview conversation with men in our community that we discuss manhood stuff. We try to keep it lighthearted, but also very serious because the topics that we're talking about are important. And I think that we are trying to create a platform for men to have serious discussions, good discussions about things that maybe we wouldn't normally talk about. So join us every Tuesday, 6 p.m. on Facebook. And if you'd like to be on the show, send us a message. The Manhood Tree Podcast is an extension of all the Manhood Tree initiatives. It's like an opportunity for us to talk freely about the things that we might discuss in group, that we might learn at the men's health events, that we might talk about in our fatherhood monologues, or even brotherhood yoga. It's a free form interview conversation with men in our community that we discuss manhood stuff. We try to keep it lighthearted, but also very serious because the topics that we're talking about are important. And I think that we are trying to create a platform for men to have serious discussions, good discussions about things that maybe we wouldn't normally talk about. So join us every.
We're on. But obviously, you know,
Go ahead.
I
You
know.
can talk us up.
Hello, everybody. This is Alonzo Lee Beckett. I'm back at you. As you can see, you know, he doesn't believe that we're on, so we're going to wait about 30 seconds till he sees himself on the screen over here, which you can't see.
Yeah. I can see it right on my screen. Okay.
There he is. We're on, baby.
Wow, there you go.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Manhood Tree Podcast.
Welcome.
My name is Abdul Rahman bin Muhammad, of course.
Oh.
You already introduced
Oh,
yourself.
wait. My man got his glasses on today, boy. It's about to be a good show. Got the glasses on? Oh, he took them off.
I only need them for a couple minutes. You want to introduce yourself again now?
Yes.
Now we can see you.
Yes, my name is Alonzo Lee Beckett.
And sitting across me, I usually go to my right,
Uh-oh.
but I'm gonna end on my right. So
Okay.
sitting across from me on my left,
It's the young one in the building.
Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey, hello everybody. Good evening. Thank you guys for having me. My name is Winton Borders.
Nice.
I am an educator, former principal, Capital Preparatory Harper School down in Bridgeport.
Nice.
Now I am the.
Shout out to Steve Perry.
and
Shout him out, shout him out.
Perry, man, it's been really good to me, and this is where I actually met this guy right here. I still call him Coach Zoe, you know. So.
Wow.
But yeah, now I'm working across 2 states for Capital Prep Schools as the director of professional learning over, all 5 of our schools in the network. Really coaching principals, working with staff, leading different training sessions. Really all the initiatives around just professional learning for adults now in our organization. So trying to touch as many people that are going to touch young people eventually
Awesome.
one day. Yeah.
So you went from being a student at Capital Prep to being a principal at Capital Prep.
Crazy story.
So go ahead, tell us a little bit about that story. That's a pretty good story.
He's a backup point guard too. He's a real tough.
Yeah, I want to hear
Tough
a little
defender.
bit about this.
Nah, it's crazy. So I'm actually originally from Ohio, but I grew up on the north end of Hartford, right up the street on Vine Street.
Yeah.
At 14, went to Weaver for the first 2 years. So, I'm definitely a Weaver Beaver still at Hartford.
Oh, man.
Nice.
But I had the opportunity to transfer to Capital Prep my junior year,
Mm-hmm.
and it was after you get in a little trouble, or at times you can be a good person and you got good morals, but if there's a lot of stuff going on around you,
That's right.
sometimes
Environment.
you can succumb to that, or get lost. And so my mom had a real value for education and religion, and she was like, I always wanted you to go to Capital Prep. They wore blazers, shirts and ties like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So she
Right.
that
Yes,
was
they
always
did.
a vision. So I wrote letters. I kept applying to the lottery, and eventually I got into Capital Prep my junior year. So I made the decision to leave, go down to Capital Prep, and I was a football player. Weaver Capital Prep football at the time, it wasn't even comparable.
Wow.
Played under Coach Fleet up at Weaver.
Yeah.
And went down to Capital Prep, became a student, and kind of just got immersed into the culture and just kind of really figured out there that education is kind of the equalizer. It's something that could, really advance me, advance my family, give me opportunities. And I seen how much people poured into me. It was really the first time I seen black leaders, black educators.
Yes.
And just had a really good support system on top of what my family was doing for me. So went to Capital Prep.
Hold up, before you talk about the next part. I often say that education is the means unto which you can accomplish your dreams. And so a lot of people out there don't know. Like you started talking about football and all that stuff, basketball, but education. Education. They can't take that. You don't get old in education. You get wiser in education. This is my little sidebar. But go ahead. So you were at Capital Prep,
So,
wrapping that up.
Went down to Morehouse College.
Nice.
From there, and that was like just the perfect kind of segue from Capital Prep. Just that real passion for paying it forward, giving back, just being a leader in your community, and just serving folks. And so there I was able to major in sociology after I figured it out for a while, what I wanted to do. And from there, I just wanted to help people. I wanted to help society. I wanted to study it. I wanted to figure out what was going to be my impact. And
Quick question. Did you receive the Harvard Promise Grant?
Nah, I didn't.
Oh, so you just went down and dropped a whole bunch of money?
Nah.
I want to give a quick shout out to the Harvard Promise Grant, because I know
Definitely.
That's how I lived on.
Townsend was trying hard to get that joint rolling right now.
I think that was before his time.
Yeah, we
Oh, okay, they didn't have
Okay.
It was a prayer. It was a prayer,
Okay.
and a lot of just working hard and people supporting me, pouring into me, right? And
Okay.
So, you know, when people pour into you, you know, you want to pour back.
That's
and,
right.
Just real quick, I read this story when I was in high school, in math class actually, and it was really just about the generation behind you should be better than you. You should leave it better.
That's right.
You should advance. You should keep pushing forward. And so it just stuck with me, and just how people poured into me, and just knowing what education could do. I was like, man, it's the perfect formula. I should go back and just work in schools.
Right.
I didn't do that originally because I was trying to chase bread. I was trying to, money,
Yeah,
salary,
yeah.
benefits for the first time, you know. But I did some corporate stuff for a year, about 10 months, and I realized it wasn't me. I was miserable. And so, made some calls, talked to some folks, and I got an opportunity to start teaching social justice at real young age, 21, 22, started teaching social justice down in Bridgeport. And then from there, things started moving really, really quickly. And like when you get good at something, as soon as you get good at it, it seems like people pull you out of it and like, all right, now do this, do this,
Right,
do this.
right, right.
So we went from teaching social justice from 6th to 12th grade to then managing the curriculum and starting to manage staff. And then from there was I became the academic dean, which is like our assistant principal in our network. And then from there, 2 years of doing that, hey, I want you to be the principal.
Wow.
And so that was my former mentor, principal at the time, Dr. Ayanna Carter. And, she really just kind of poured into me and gave me what I needed, tutelage to really, figure out how to run the building from, going from assistant to principal, going from people that were your colleagues and your friends and people that maybe even you worked under to now managing them on a day-to-day.
I want you to talk a little bit about building the plane as you're learning how to fly, because that's what you were doing, right? You were like literally like, no, we need a steering wheel, don't we?
Man, it's faith, and it's just having confidence that you got a purpose. It's so many just quotes about purpose, but you just got to kind of have that instilled in you that like you got to walk forward and just knowing that if the door opened, it didn't open up for no reason, right? And so once you get into the room, everything that you need, all your past experiences are going to be, hopefully something that's going to provide you the knowledge to do whatever you got to do next. And so for me, I'm also like a natural born leader, so like some of it is just kind of in me being a natural born leader, but also like I kind of knew what my purpose was in education and why I think people should show up every day. So regardless how young I was or how many years of experience people had over me, I knew why we should all be showing up each day, which was to pay it forward, to pour into young folks, and to try to break some of these intentional systems that have, historically kind of tried to beat us down, right? And so knowing what education did for me, it was like, look, we got to show up every day a certain way to do what we need to do to really pour back into these young folks that, just like me, just needed somebody to fight for them, needed somebody to believe in them, somebody to hold them to a high expectation. And so, like, I always will coach my staff, the deepest form of affection is correction, right? If I love you, I'm gonna tell you what you're doing wrong, but when you do something right or you do something well, I'm gonna be your biggest cheerleader as well. If I don't love you, go lay down in the street, go do whatever you want, right? And so for me, that was just kind of always my guiding light, my motivation. And so, regardless of if I worked under you at one time or I worked with you alongside you, my purpose was for young people, and I didn't get really caught up into the politics or anything like that. And so I was also a sponge. I didn't go to school, to be a teacher. I went to school for sociology, and I had more of a research background and just kind of a, societal kind of view and just a social justice kind of heart. And so it was a lot of learning on the fly as well, and just being a sponge and just being humble enough to know you don't know everything and somebody can teach you something. So so from there, I became the principal and did that for 3 years. And then it was a lot. It was stressful. And I had another opportunity to do something else, which I felt would be more of an impact.
Principal of a high school?
Principal of not K through 12, but 7 through 12. So I got the best of both worlds. I got middle school and I had high school.
And how long were you doing it?
For 3, I taught for 4.5 years. I was a administrator for about 2 years, and I was the principal for 3 years.
Awesome.
So really total out about 10 years just working, just kind of head down. Along the way, I was coaching football as well. I played football all throughout high school, a little bit in college, and so I also was coaching football while I was doing all the teaching and everything else. Eventually became the head coach down there in Bridgeport for a year. But when I became principal, it was like you got to do one thing.
That's right.
Too much responsibility. Too many people counting on you every day. So So 3 years as principal, I loved it. I really do actually miss it now because I'm more of like kind of I want to be in the action. I want to be in the thick of things where I get to now work in 5 schools and coach people that touch a lot of lives and a lot of people. So you think it's a bigger impact.
What do you do now?
I didn't even get to that part. So now I'm actually the director. The official title is Director of Professional Learning. So really, I'm just kind of my hands are all over professional development and training and just kind of growing adults. And so that's huge, right? Like you got to kind of take care of the folks that got to take care of the young people, right? You got to develop and pull those people along too. So
Right.
So now I'm kind of hands all over just the professional development of our organization. I get to coach principals and other admin weekly and one-on-one sessions and group sessions. So once again, it's like, hey, how do you go from somebody being your colleague or somebody that you're working under to now, working and training and trying to push them to be the best version of themselves.
So speaking of that, Alonzo just happened to have been your coach when you were in high school. So Zoe, I want to. We still got our other guests, but Zoe, I want to take a few moments. What is it like to hear one of your former, I guess, students actually make it? Like you hear, he's not to say nobody else made it, but I'm saying like
We made it.
Like to hear from where he was as a high school student. I mean, what do you remember about him? What are some of the attributes about him that you remember that allowed for him to actually make it to this point? Because he must have had some kind of light on him. You know what I'm saying?
No, he was more serious than the rest of the kids. So at that age, they call it maturity, I guess, right?
Yep.
So he's more mature than the other kids. He knew, at an early age, he kind of knew what he wanted to do.
Right.
Right, he had his mind made up to what he was wanting to do. He was hard to he was a leader. Like we leaned to him. He didn't start. I think you played with Khalil. Would you play with Khalil?
So I played Khalil's freshman year, and I did start that year, but we was a little thin. We about like 7 deep. Next year we loaded up and
But again, then we had a young superstar who's playing pro now.
Right.
But he was probably the leader of the team, but he was our star because he wasn't very verbal.
He was the leader of the team.
Right, because he wasn't really verbal.
Right.
Or he was more like watch me. So he was more like, he would talk to the kids. They could relate to him more. Other kid didn't live in Hartford. He did. I'll give him rides home and everything. Yeah. So they kind of connected to him. So you could see the leadership in him. I always thought I did think it would be successful. Like me and my cousin Levi, the head coach, we would always talk about kids like,
right.
This guy, he's gonna, you always talk about it.
Yeah.
Right, but we always thought he would be okay because he had the right objective in mind.
Yeah.
He wasn't easily led astray by his friends, right? So if you have that mindset when you go away to college, it would be a little more difficult for other people to kind of infiltrate that or penetrate that. So, you saw all the things he's talking about. He had all those things. But again, some kids don't understand. Like he was saying, he kept saying, he understands the importance of people pouring into him, and like he almost felt like he had an obligation to pour back in other people. Most kids don't feel the obligation for whatever reason, but he did.
Yeah.
And I think that's the part I took from it. Like for somewhere along the line, he felt obligated to do something.
Yeah.
Right. But I don't know what triggered that. Right. Like I don't know what triggered that. But most kids never get that trigger. They be like, he's helping because I'm good at basketball.
Right.
Because he thinks my mom's pretty. Right. This is why adults help other kids, not necessarily because they really care about them.
Right.
Right. But I don't know if he thought about all that. But he thought immediately, like, let me give back to what people gave to me.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. So this is what I like to ask. I'm very big on dreams. So here you are. You've kind of like, in some ways, maybe you've exceeded what you would have thought about yourself when you were younger.
Man, so that's
you told me. You were saying at the bar, he was telling me that he dreamed of being a principal.
Right.
And then he was a principal. He was like, what else? He didn't know what else to do.
Yeah. So I guess my question is, what are you dreaming about right now? Where do you want to go from here?
Man, and that's why I'm glad I'm here to learn and just kind of be a sponge again, right? I told you I came in not knowing how to be a teacher and just listened and sat and watched and humbled myself. And so once again, I want to be a sponge. I want to get I'm back in Hartford now. I just moved back to Hartford. I want to figure out what's going on in the community since I left. I want to figure out who are the players, who are the people that really are kind of boots on the ground right now. And so you're right. I said it in 11th grade. You know, I'm going to be a principal one day. I knew I would do it one day.
Right.
Like I told you, I tried to go chase money at first. Right.
Yeah.
Wasn't me, miserable. But I almost like outkicked my coverage. I said I'm gonna be a principal one day, and then it happened at 29. So it's like, now what do you do that you did it? And so now it's really trying to honor my talents, right? Because I'm also a writer, also a poet. Published a book when I was in college as well.
Wait. I told him about something. He thought it was crazy.
What?
I told him when we had that motivational off.
Yeah.
He was like, what? I said, yeah, they had a motivation. They was going back and forth. He was like, what do you mean? I said, no, they were just going back and forth.
That sound dope.
Because because I saw him on Facebook, sounding like y'all, sounding like how they be, you know how they be, him, Malik, and all them dudes like, dude, they say some stuff. You're like, oh. So he was doing some stuff like this, some poems. People was like in the crowd clapping, like, oh, that sounds like. So I figured this would be perfect.
No, I've always been good with words, and like writing's always been kind of my secret, talent, passion. And so in college, I had a little bit more time to explore that. Wrote a book, and so now I really want to get back to honoring using my talents and trying to figure out now where does this fit in, right? What is motivation? What is writing? What is poetry? What are the arts fit in that? But also, I want to keep this education thing going. I want to find ways to get more black men in education. If I could have any dream job, honestly, it'd probably be someplace on Capitol Hill, really lobbying and trying to change policies around just taking care of teachers and what we can do to just kind of make that a more prestigious career, because it is really, in my opinion, probably one of the hardest things you could ever do is it to pour into or take care of someone else's child. And so really now just trying to find ways that I can just kind of advance that mission and just get more people to see education really is this kind of equalizer, and that if we don't pour into this funnel that actually funnels into society, we gonna be in similar situations or even in worse situations than we've seen historically. So really just trying to figure out ways to just spread that message or to make this a sexy, kind of profession, because it really is, it can be really fruitful to you and to other people. And I just don't know if everybody sees that on a day-to-day. So just trying to find ways to honor my gifts, my art. I would love to do like more events in the city, bringing people together, building community. I see, I lived in Atlanta for a little bit, and you go to Atlanta, anything you're interested in, they got it for people that look like us.
Right.
And so, you hear so much about what Hartford, Connecticut doesn't have. And if you search, hard or long enough, you'll find it. And so I guess just trying to figure out ways to connect people that do have similar interests and that want to make this place a beautiful place for people of color. It's something that's not always, going downtown, going to a party, just, hanging out, but just really cultural events that can just kind of inspire some things and maybe things that schools are lacking, right? Because the arts are extinct in schools, and we are so AI and tech heavy now, which I know that's where we're going, but if we don't, exercise that as well, we're going to lose, creativity and beauty and just innovation. And so just trying to find ways to just, maybe bridge some things that are not in schools anymore, or that we don't see, kind of on the regular, and bring people together. Because like I said, I've always been a leader. I've always been a passionate person. I've always been somebody I think can cultivate people to, move a little bit. And so I want to find ways to do that now that I'm back in Hartford and I got a little bit better work-life balance. I'm not a principal where it's 4 a.m. to 11 a.m. just grinding. When you wake up again, it's just right back on the phone. So now I'm in that space. I'm a little bit older, just being a sponge again, just kind of, sitting back for a little bit and watching. But then, I can't do that too long. I want to start moving and start trying to figure out where can I get involved, where can I start doing my own thing and find my own lane to bring folks together for something positive. Like I said, it's all, for me, everything is about impact and touching people.
I love it. So you want to give your information? Like if somebody want to get in contact with you, maybe there's somebody watching and they're like, hey, I got an event. I'd like to tell his brother about it. So
man, invite me.
My bachelor's, my master's, and now I'm looking to get into law school. But I say all that to say, I'll be 55 in a couple of months. But the importance of opportunity and exposure for our community.
yes, talk about it.
Zoe mentioned Wake Up Wednesday. I do this initiative. We've been on Barber Street for approximately 139 Wednesdays, consecutive Wednesdays. We have not missed not one Wednesday. And the whole purpose of us being out there was to engage the community, because what had happened was like 8 murders within 10 days, right?
Wow.
We're not an organization or an agency that does intervention or prevention, but I do have a platform to saying let's bring those resources out to people who don't even know what's available for them, right? So let me just put this spill on you because you know this is something that I believe that you're into, and I'm coming for you. I'm telling you, I'm coming for you.
Listen, man. That's why.
And that's
I
why
knew it. I knew it. And I knew you.
He told me. He told me.
So
They gonna get you.
and Connecticut, there's 883 census tracts throughout the state of Connecticut. Connecticut being one of the richest states per capita, right? But then you have 64 census tracts that's considered concentrated poverty, right? And concentrated poverty, as you know, is you have a family of 4 who are living below the poverty line. So you have 4 people who's probably getting $26,000 a year, if that, right?
Wow.
Hartford has 19 of those census tracts, so there is a third, right? So when we talk about education, opportunity, exposure, and we're wondering why these, you know, what they call YNs, or why, you know, that's a factor in, because when we talk about, again, opportunity and exposure, our kids don't see none of that, right? And I can say, being up on Barber Street for 139 consecutive Wednesdays, you could see, all they see is what's in front of them. And we wondering why individuals are acting the way that they're acting, right? And we say concentrated poverty, but then there's another piece called persistence of poverty, right? Whereas though you have communities that have been impoverished for over 30, 40 years, generations, just generations and generations. And you're saying, well, why is the communities not growing, right? Education, economic development, infrastructure, all those things are factored into why crime is put in there, right? And, you know, education being one of the biggest budgets in any state, right?
You're
And
good on the mic. I just don't want your face to get covered.
and with education being one of the biggest, why is there such a lack in the black and brown communities when it comes to education, right? And there's all systems and structures that continue to create in this type stuff. So it's very important that you share your story, right? I can remember when I went and interviewed for the graduate program. And there was something that the director of the program had said to me. She says, your most powerful tool is your story. Because a lot of folks think you just made it, like it was just there, right? And they don't understand the tenacity and the grit you had to have to obtaining the things that you obtained in your lives. And especially young black boys. They don't think they have an opportunity to go out and be great, right? And what I learned, you know, even being out in the communities, I'm from the community, and actually I'm a product of, right? And I think that's another reason why I'm so hard and I go so hard in the community, because it was one time that the criminal justice system was a revolving door for me. So a lot of that blood is on my hand, right? So I said, and one of my young bucks asked me, he's like, why do you do what you're doing? And the reality of it is a responsibility, right? And I think sometimes we shy away from that, because if it's not hitting our backyards, we're not touching it, right? But the reality is, you know, we are all responsible for what's going on in our communities, whether you live in West Hartford, Bloomfield, whatever, right? You are responsible for what's going on here in Hartford. I don't, you know, and that's just my spill. And I go hard. I don't, you know, what you see is what you get, because I, you know, again, there's a quote by Cornel West. And Cornel West says, in order to lead the people, you have to love the people.
That's right.
And in order to save them, you have to serve them. So we got to you can't keep being so comfortable with what's going on in our communities. And I also read this book by Joseph Marshall called Street Soldiers, Saving a Generation of People One Person at a Time. And what he said in the book that I always, and I talk about it often, he said his grandmother would say, the more you know, the more you owe. Right? And a lot of times we ain't, you know, and I'm like, man, now I know why and how things are happening in my community. I got to call it out, man. It's a responsibility, and you know, I'm always thinking on how could I really tap into these systems, right? Because it's all, you know, we know what it really is. So if we could create our own systems and ecosystems, I think the community could really, really thrive. Like, what's the formula that we need to create, right? Because
Man,
you know.
I think it's some of the stuff like we do now. Like you said, you got like a 10-week program and curriculum, and like when you said the more you know, the more you owe. I'm just thinking like just consciousness, right? And like
Exactly.
I got to teach social justice to high school kids, and so
Exactly.
it was like, how do you break some of these dense texts or these dense ideas and topics down for young people, right? But I realized that over the year, the more that they realized what was happening around them, this intentional design about gentrification and redlining historically, and
Exactly.
everything you can think of, right?
Exactly,
That
exactly.
their consciousness started to unlock, and so they started to even act different in school.
Exactly,
Where it's like, look,
exactly.
what we playing around for when
Exactly.
they everything is set up around us, you know.
Right.
So like, that's kind of where my passion lies as well. Is like, how do you keep reinventing this wheel to figure out how can we create our own systems, our own things that can untap or unlock that consciousness that people.
And the real part of it is when you look at it nationally, black folks spend more money than any other
They find it.
ethnic, right?
Find it somewhere.
Right? They spend more money, so for our communities to be the way that they are, we got to say, hold up, man. It ain't nothing but vacuums in our community. Ain't nothing coming back into our community. We got to put that in check, man. And I think it's very important we start calling that stuff out, And I have an uncle, and we always talk about having these courageous conversations because a lot of times folks don't want to talk about it. Right? And my favorite class when I was in graduate school was conflict resolution. Right? A lot of folks say conflict. Conflict is healthy if we're willing and we're looking to getting somewhere, and we all have that same vision. We want to get here. We might not see it the way you see it or how you see it or how you see it, but eventually we want to see our communities better. How do we get there? And when it's just so unfortunate, there's a disalignment in not just Hartford, but statewide. There's a disalignment. There's no alignment. And I think it has to start from top down to bottom up in order for things to really work. And we cannot continue to work in silos because it hurts us more than it helps us. And I think that's by design. So, just really disrupting that piece of it and letting folks know we're here. And we got to get past each other's feelings on how we feel, because feelings ain't real until you put a thought behind it. So,
I love the direction. Just in their introduction,
Yeah.
they just went on a
Went at it. They went at
15
it.
minutes, and I was like, you know what? I'm not even gonna stop them. I'm gonna let them
That's how they
go.
go too.
But I think there's a lot of brothers right now who are like they're doing double dutch with the community. They want to get in, but they don't know how to get in. And I think that I would love to hear from all of you about how does a person stop, standing on the sideline and just get in there? How do you especially if you're not from Hartford, if you're not from wherever you want to get in, maybe you just came back and you have to make new relationships and all that stuff. How do you get in? How do you allow yourself to get in the game?
So I'm kind of far out. I'm a man of faith. So my thing would be, you got to pray for conviction, bro. Because a lot of folks don't got no conviction. And if there's no conviction, ain't nobody going to change. So we have to say, man, this ain't right. And if you get those convictions, you're going to put yourself in that. And then there's another part that I've learned, right? We always talking about empower the people, No, you got to be careful with that, because when you empower individuals, you relinquish all your power, right? So what I've learned is co-power individuals. I'm going to walk with you and talk with you. We're going to do this together, because I can remember running for city council, and they was like, what you gonna do for us? I said, I ain't gonna do nothing for us. I'm gonna do it with us, because it's all of our responsibilities. And I think that's the part that has to be said, especially when we're looking at making changes.
Right.
There's this TED talk called How to Make Leaders, not how movements are made. Right?
Yeah, I've seen that.
And
one.
movements are made by one person. You
Right.
have to be that long, crazy nut to just say, I'm going to put myself out there, right?
The dude dancing on the hill.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then you got everybody else following, because you have so many folks who want to move, right? They're not going to move because they're thinking about who's looking and what's going to be said, right? But if you move, you just never know who's behind you, who's ready to move with you.
Well, the other piece is that you have to be your true, authentic self. So you're not just putting on. Like the guy on the hill, if you ever watch the video, it's a guy, he goes out, he's at a concert, and he goes out and starts just dancing crazy, just having a good time. And after a while, first everybody's like laughing at him, pointing at him. And then one person decided to go down there and start dancing. And before you know it, everybody that was on the hill was dancing. Exactly. And so when you are your true, authentic self, people can't help but to be attracted to that.
Exactly.
It's when we fake that we can't get anybody. When you just authentically be yourself, all of a sudden, even somebody, and it's not like he was saying, I want everybody to join me. He was just doing what he wanted to do.
Right.
So whatever the message is, you have to really believe in your message. You got to believe in the thing you're doing.
Exactly.
And so then people can get behind it. And if you don't believe in it, then nobody can get behind you. So
And I have to say one more thing, and y'all might beat me up. The cavalry ain't coming, Doc.
say more about that.
We have to be responsible for our communities. They're not coming. The cavalry, and that's just the reality of it, man. You know, I have these conversations. We talking about, let's talk about our Constitution and what that was built on. Right? You can't. The foundation of what America was built on was racist.
Right.
You're not going to take that away. Unfortunately, that's the sad reality of it. But how do you navigate those waters and knowing that there's a system that was never really created for you?
Yeah,
Not for us.
At all.
No. The system was literally created to stop us.
Yeah,
Exactly.
make it harder.
To make it where we will not succeed, where we won't be
Exactly.
able to get to anywhere.
I think everything you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
I always talk about when we travel to different countries.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, it's hard here, and I always think it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I think that is because I have education.
Right.
I'm like, like something's going on. I'm like, do this, don't do it. And they be like, oh, like I'm from another country, I'm from another world.
Right.
But it's just like I know the education of, like, you don't need that. You can do this. You put this together because I have education. So I think the same thing here is that most of the kids they don't look for more education. Right? It's not required. It's not really required. Like some schools, even my son's school, when he was there, I felt like they were trying to just push him out because they were allowing him to get credit to come work with me.
Right.
So I'm like, well, how is that? Right. So I think the education part of it, they're uneducating the kids, on purpose to a point, and the parents and everything, they're allowing it. Like they're not saying, hey, he need to learn this, or he needs to do cursive or whatever. They're just allowing it because they're saying they're passing, and they're just passing them along. So they don't have any education to like critically think about anything.
Exactly.
Right, to
No
problem
critical
solve.
thinking. I want to just share one piece that I think is very important when we talk about education. And this is something that folks really don't talk about, right? We talk about early childhood care and not early childhood education, right? You have in Hartford what they would call a low opportunity area. Then you go to West Hartford, there's a high opportunity area.
Right.
What's the difference, right? But then you have 2/3 of their kids in West Hartford that start in early childhood education.
So you
Then
mean
you come-
they're
then
going
you-
to school at 3 years old instead
0
of 5
to
years old?
5, not 3.
Oh.
You got to tap into them from 0 to 5, right? Now you come down to the concentrated and impoverished areas. Only 9% of our babies are starting early childhood education.
Right.
And there's a difference because folks just say early childhood care, right, and not say early childhood education. You have to tap into that education piece, and that's my thing. So we're running this campaign right now, and I know you all probably seen these yard signs. Hartford matters. 1 in 3, if not more, of our kids are living below the poverty.
Right.
That shit is criminal, bro. Right? And you only got 9% of our kids that is starting early childhood care. And now, and this is your wheelhouse. So you have a 4-level tier, right? And in Hartford, this is really where I get frustrated at. In Hartford, only 9% of our kids are making gold. That's criminal. So when you start talking about literacy and folks being able to having meaningful conversations, and you saying, well, why little Bobby wilding out?
Yeah.
Because he's not even able to articulate how he's feeling in a way that's meaningful to him. So the first thing he gonna go to is bopping you upside your head.
Right. Right.
And it's not even just like Hartford districts. You look at some of these other wealthier districts that deem themselves as successful. You disaggregate, you pull apart some of that data. You look at just brown and black kids or Latino kids in that district.
Right.
It look crazy. And so it's like, what is happening even in these schools that are deemed quality?
Well, what I was gonna say is, and this is the long game, but it's like when you finally get to a place like Morehouse, or I went to Tougaloo College, 2 historically black colleges. This is the long game, but it's like, and you got to get in and be able to do this, but it does something where you think about yourself differently. So you can live in Hartford and go to Weaver, and you may never think of yourself in the way that you would when you get to a historically black college. You're with all black people,
Exactly.
but it's not clicking. But then you go to a historic black college, and all of a sudden, the same stuff that you were trying to do back home, or you were trying to learn, all of a sudden you inspired to learn. You're inspired to do things differently. And I think it, like for me, I would my roommate every night I watch him fall asleep either in a book or the Bible. And I started saying, first I'd be like, yo, this dude's crazy. And then after a while, I was like, well, he is a good student. So you know what? I'm gonna read some books at night too instead of just eating chips. You know
But
what I'm
now
saying?
watch what that is. That's that exposure piece.
Exposure, yeah.
Right now, watch this, because now we're gonna go back to where Martin Luther King was brought up at, right? He would walk out of his door and walk by doctors who looked like him,
Of course.
lawyers that looked like him, right? And in schools, we had teachers who looked like us.
Right.
That in itself
It makes a difference. It makes a huge difference. It does.
So, let's just call it what it is.
My top teachers growing up were black men. Anytime I would in those classes, I never had behavioral problems. I was interested in the topic, whether it was history or it was English, just because they were teaching it.
I had a teacher in when I was in Farmington, in white school. When I was in 3rd grade. I had a black Miss Mendenhall. She was from Hartford. That was my teacher. She used to give me certificates and stuff for spelling things. I used to spell water wrong all the time, but she'd still give me a certificate.
But
Right.
you see, but you
But
remember that.
I remember that. She used to
right?
give them to me, make sure that I had something too.
She should have made sure you would learn
No,
how
no,
to
yeah,
spell
but she would
water.
tell me. No, what
Spell
I'm
water right now. I want to hear you. Just,
no R's, no R. I just put the R in there. The war. I just do that. I don't know. But she made sure. She'd be like, you don't put that there.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
she give me the certificate.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right? So
Yeah.
I felt like I didn't know, but that made me feel good. I would see her, I'll go and lunch and stuff, that she would come talk to me. I'll go talk to her. I felt like that's the only person I could talk to.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
Representation, man.
Yeah.
Like
But now
representation,
but
right?
you said something earlier though that I think that we have to address as well. You know, kids, especially they some of the brightest minds,
Of
right?
course.
So they could see if you faking it, bro.
Authenticity. We see
They,
that. Yeah.
You understand?
Yes.
They could see that. So
Right.
I think it's very important, again, to our points of sharing our stories and letting them know, like, yo, it wasn't always
Right.
peaches and
Yes.
cream.
That's
You know what I
true.
mean? I
That's-
think
that's
it's
important.
very important. You know what I mean? And we shy away from sharing our stories. You
Right.
know what I mean? It's important, man.
all right, bro, I got something. I thought of something.
Go ahead.
So what we should do is we do the workshops, all that stuff.
Yes.
Just do it and have people share their stories, and we tape it and have people come.
Okay.
Right? Like stuff like that. You
Maybe
get a bunch
we could put it out there in the zeitgeist.
like what I mean is like his story, education growing,
Yeah.
Demetrius' story with
Yeah.
with his child, right? His story, and they using them now on a Goodwin Tech. You on a payroll? I see you every other day on a Goodwin Tech.
They ain't-
I see 'em all the
actually,
time.
That's my, I graduated.
I
with
know,
them.
but yo, you're like the poster boy.
Hey, man, I don't.
Goodwin Tech. You ever see him? Yo, watch. You're gonna see it now. Algorithm's gonna show you it.
So the real part of it is, and I don't mind because I come from a community that was disinvested in, right? I made poor choices due to my environment and due to poor choices myself. I had to take responsibility for that.
Right.
You know, I come from a family that taught me what was morally right, right? Was it hard? Absolutely.
Right.
You know, but I knew education, to your point, was very important. So, you know.
But you're talking about something. So in the manhood tree, in our second session, we talk about neighborhood, the impact of your neighborhood.
Yeah.
So you can have this environment inside your house that is loving. It could be caring. They could be religious. They could put all the right morals and beliefs in you. And then you walk outside that house, and that the distance between walking out the door to wherever you're going has sometime a greater impact on you than
Absolutely.
everything you're learning inside the house.
Absolutely.
And you're spending a lot more time outside.
Exactly. You know, I have to share this little story. So, this is when Project Concern happened.
Yeah.
Hey, shout out to Product Concern. I was part of Product Concern.
They wanted to bust me out.
Right.
I cried like a baby. Like, no,
They
this
took
is
me.
where I'm at, man. I don't want to go. Right.
Yeah.
Not understanding the importance of and how that changes. So even now, I struggle with when we talk about choice programs and
It's a big conversation right now.
So the real part of it is, if you choose that you want to live in West Hartford next to, that's your priority, right?
Right.
That's what you want, right?
Mhm.
But what I struggle with is when it's equitable, right?
Yeah.
Because I shouldn't have to go to West Hartford
Mhm.
to get the same education that I should be getting at Hartford.
course not.
And I struggle with that. right?
Yeah.
So
I agree with that.
and then there's another part where as though you have teachers who's not culturally competent on understanding what's going on with our kids. So what they'll do, right? You got a kid now. You see the early childhood education piece was skipped. So you got kids who are starting kindergarten who didn't get that social emotional, right? So they're starting behind the 8 ball, right?
It's that culturally relevant piece. You hitting it on the head.
Now watch this though. This is what's scary though. So now you have these teachers who don't even know anything about our culture, and the first thing they say, man, put an IEP on this kid. This kid he has behavioral problems, and all the kid got, he just got ants in his pants, and he needs to dance. He's a brilliant mind.
Right.
So I think those are things that we have to start talking about and really start.
But you got to go back to the other point you made. One of you made about, like, you didn't say it this way, but if you don't, the quote I'm looking for is I think it was Huey P. Newton. It's like basically having love for the people.
You got to love.
If you don't love the people, then how did? So what is it? I'm going to work. These people are going to work. They want to put the time in and they out. 3
But
o'clock.
you had teachers, but now watch
They
this.
outta here.
Watch this. This is another part of it. You had teachers, that was a calling.
Right.
When teachers were teaching back then, that was a calling. It wasn't, I'm not doing this for no paycheck. I'm doing this because I love, if you look at even how HBCUs was started, that was a love that people had for our people and for our kids, Doc. And we have to get back there.
Yeah. Well, I think that.
And I'm going to say it one more time. The
go ahead.
Calvary ain't coming, man.
But what is coming?
We have to take responsibility for our community.
Individual.
I think fresh, brand new minds are coming. That's all.
Okay.
Fresh. We
And
live
we
in
have
the
to
world
be,
of technology.
we have to be willing to have these courageous conversations.
Okay.
right?
Speaking of what you just said, I wanna. So you said fresh new young minds are coming.
Yes, fresh new minds.
So what's gonna happen when these fresh young new minds come, and the old minds don't want to get out the way, and they don't want to collaborate?
tough
because it's happening right now.
But we have to understand the balance in that, right? Because we need the older.
We do.
right? And the older need
And
the
they should know
younger,
that.
right? And there's a balance. Is right? It's
Should know that.
collective
If they
thing
don't,
that
then
we have to do.
I had a great conversation. Actually, this is something I think about a lot, and keeping in mind that I'm getting older. I'm not a fresh young new mind. I'm like a middle aged new mind.
Yeah, I'm old, man.
Half
You're old? You're only 3 years older than me, so you ain't that old.
Half 100, man.
You're only 5 years older than Zoe.
Half 100, baby.
But my point is that the conversation was about the older people staying too long. Like, now, but when I was talking to, and I'm gonna say the name, I was talking to Ken Green, and what he explained to me is like, we don't necessarily, we wanna guide you. We don't want to be out. Like, why do we have to go sit at home and do nothing and get out the way, as opposed to walking side by side with you and telling you the things that I've experienced, the things that I've gone through, and make sure you don't hit the same potholes that I hit 50 years ago. You know what I'm saying? And so when we were talking about it in that sense, it actually made me feel much better, because it said to me that actually there's still a position for me 20 years from now.
Absolutely.
There's something I could be able to offer.
I think it was KRS-One who said it the best, right? He was like, did you see that little, he was like, listen.
I know you're talking about.
The older
they
people,
both have something to add.
right? The older people need to connect with the younger folks. So when they go to their older colleague, they be like, yo, I got some young stuff that the young bucks gave.
Yeah, right.
And then the younger bucks need to tap into the older folks. So when they tap into their little sphere of influence, that they can say, listen, I was talking.
OG told me this.
Yeah, and this is, so it is a balance, bro. I think we have moved away, because we ain't making no leaders, bro. And I think that's another part of it. We have to make leaders, bro. We have to create other leaders. We have to, and we're responsible.
Let the young,
wait,
man
real quick.
get in. He being respectful. He
Wait,
got some words to say.
Yo, Fred Hampton was like, what, 22? How old was Fred Hampton?
He was a young buck.
That's what I'm saying. That was young.
It was Fred Hampton.
But when you look at if you look at any of the strong movements that started in college,
It was young.
was making moves.
But I think like, and I'm listening because I'm a sponge. And I like to learn. I love this conversation. But it's like, where does it happen to? Where nowadays do old and young people even interact, right? And so like,
We should do an event like that.
Like, and maybe it's just even that, just putting them in the same space, because they don't realize that they actually need each other to coexist, right? And they got to take each other's message and make it palatable for people that look like them, right? But it's absolutely necessary. But I think, like, how much do I get to interact with older dudes that like-minded, and I just didn't know it, right?
Right.
By the grace of God, I bumped into Coach Zoe, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And sometimes it's only one dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, but sometimes one dude, I often think about Matt, right? Matt interacts with me, and then all of a sudden he gets access
Yes.
to everybody. Like, if you hang out with me enough, you gonna come with me? Okay, let me go introduce you to Corey. Let me introduce you to
Well,
Zoe.
that's the real part of it. We would say that you hear folks always say it's 6 degrees to separation.
Of course.
Yeah.
But my uncle said that there's 10 degrees of connection. So we have to understand that we're all a part of this nexus. We're all connected in some way, form, or fashion, and we just have to cultivate whatever that connection is with one another.
I love it.
Yes.
I love it.
So,
Yo, I mean, I have questions, but I feel like y'all are just flowing. Forget about the questions. Let's talk more about both community and education. So earlier we talked. I mean, both of you mentioned your educational journeys, and actually the difference in the two, because you're still fairly young, and you kind of like smoothly went through the journey, and you caught on a little bit later. Talk about that later part where you had to pick back up and make that decision.
So I work, as you all know, I'm a director of a substance abuse program. The program is the program is called, was Youth Challenge of Connecticut. We just did a branding. It's the Life Center of Connecticut. I was court stipulated into that program in 2013.
Oh, wow.
So I had gotten into some trouble in 2009. I was on federal probation. And I went to the program.
It's not that long ago.
I know, that's insane.
Like
That's
you know
why
what I'm saying?
it's a great
that was
story.
the other,
So now-
2009 was
you
the
gotta
other day.
Yeah.
know.
So 2013, I get court stipulated to the program. I'm there for approximately like 2 weeks, and I write the judge a letter like, give me something a little more traditional. Give me 30 days. The program faith based. I come from a family of faith, and this is what clicked for me, right? She says, Corey, I can't make you stay there, but if you don't stay, I'm gonna put in a motion and you're gonna go back in front of your sentencing judge.
Right.
So I said, okay, I'm gonna stay. So then she says, I got a question for you since you're gonna stay. She says, when are you ever gonna love yourself and be committed in anything? And
This was a black judge.
yeah. And then from that point, I stayed, and then you have people who see things in you that you don't see in yourself. And she was a director then. She said, you need to go back to school. Now, mind you, I'm 41 years old. I'm like, school? I'm done with school. Like, she was like, nah, you got something. So I said, okay, I'll go back to school.
Yeah.
Went back to school, got my associates. My plan was just to get my associates, and I'm out your way.
Right.
But then you develop relationships.
Yeah.
So you got the dean of students, my advisor is like, yo, you bright, man. Once you keep going, I'm like, man, nah, I'm good. But my mom was living then. So I said, okay, what's my why? I said, I won't walk with my associates. I'll walk with my bachelors,
Okay.
right? So my mom can see me walk.
Yes.
So in
Big deal.
2019, I walked with my bachelor.
Awesome. What?
Got a pardon, I
Yeah.
ran for
But
city council.
when did it all click? Because at what point did you start loving yourself? Because that had to be a part of the story.
That was exactly.
Yeah.
So now I stay. I stay at the program. I lived at the program for 3.5 years working on myself.
Oh wow.
I could have left. I started doing the intake. I was their community liaison. I would take guys to court because I come from that space, so I knew how to navigate the courts. And then I just, so my motto is when the guys come through the program is just get out your own way.
Right.
And I just got out of my own way, man.
That's deep.
And just let God have his way. And now, who would ever thought? Like, you couldn't ask me this 13 years ago. I'd be like, man, I ain't doing none of this, man.
But it's kind of like some of us are late bloomers. It's like even with everything you're from Hartford, right? And so even with everything you said about this community, there's people that are right now they might look at you some kind of way, but in 10 years they're gonna be a great man, just like
Exactly.
you, or a great woman, whatever.
So you heard when Zoe just
10
said,
years. It's 10 years away.
So when Zoe said the poster child, I don't mind being a poster child
Right.
because it's so unfortunate we live in a society where that we have to see it to believe it.
Right.
I'm an open book, man. I know if you put the hard and enduring work that you need to put, like, so my hashtag with my kids is hashtag no limit.
Yeah.
Don't put
Mine
when
is
they say,
hashtag never stop dreaming.
hashtag no limit.
Mine is Eddie King, but
You know, and you know how some folks say, you know, sky's the limit. Nah, it ain't no limit. When you put a limit on it,
Yo,
the
there's
limit
there's
itself.
supposedly aircraft circling the moon right now.
Yeah, so you know what I mean. So there's no limit. So I think, and there's a mindset too. You know,
Let's talk about mindset. Let's talk about mindset. I like that topic. I was writing about mindset today, so I'm gonna come back to you because I know you're hot right now. I'm gonna let the young buck get in.
Yeah, I got
Talk
you, I
about
got you.
mindset. Talk about the mindset. Talk about the difference between the mindsets you've had to develop as you made these different leaps from high school to college, from college to being an educator, from being you had to change the mindset. It can't be the same mindset all the way through.
Yeah, I mean, you know, changing mindset from just going from Weaver to the Capital Prep, you know, was huge in high school when I was 16 years old, and then going to Morehouse. And sometimes the mindset is also like you don't want to leave, right? Like that survivor's remorse, or you feel bad. Like I remember leaving to go to college, and it was like my family's pride and joy, and I'm in the backseat crying. 'Cause I don't want to leave folks behind. I feel like I'm abandoning people, right? And so like some of it is just kind of getting over that and just kind of always grounding yourself in like what your why is and what your purpose is, or like you talk about the us, you know, circling the moon right now and just knowing like, yo, this a big galaxy, right? Not even world, just galaxy, right? And then to think that like we're here in this big thing, like why are you here? And I think like everybody has to figure that out, and it sometimes comes later, it comes sooner for folks. For me, I think my quest to figure my why, you know, just being hungry for it allowed me to figure out what it was. But, like, you know, it clicks at 41 for some folks. My mom, she figured it out at closer to 50, 60 when she went back to school. And so, you know, I think it's just trying to figure out what your why is and being grounded in something. And for me, it was faith, right? And so, like, you read all over the place in the Bible where, like, we are here for a reason. Figure that purpose. What is going to be your contribution to it all? So I think that might be the mindset to just to have is like, what is your contribution to it? What is your contribution to it? And even you talk about community involvement. If you can't do certain things, maybe that's not your contribution. But what do you do well? You do something well. Like I knew I did school well. I knew I enjoyed school. Like I wasn't the kid that liked to miss school. I wanted to be at school. And it's like, damn, like if I like school so much, like maybe I should just make this my job one day. You know, eventually. And so like, and then it actually ended up being my career. And so I think it's just like figuring out what is that you're passionate about, what is that you're good about, and then like now how can I contribute that to somebody else, knowing that even my smallest contribution is not too small. And so I think it's just, you know, figuring out we keep reinventing the wheel, just keep searching for what's the why, what's the purpose, what's my contribution to people, and you'll figure it out if you keep that mindset.
Can I be honest with you guys? Most of my life, things have been very easy. I mean, imagine even when I failed this stuff, it was still like I would always bounce back. I was like very pliable. Like it'd be like, whoa, you just fell, and I'd be like, boom, I'm back up though. But the last 3 years of my life have been more difficult, maybe even 4 years, have been more difficult than any other part of my life. And then keeping in mind, I had kidney failure when I was 25 years old. I've you know, I started businesses and failed, and then started a business and succeeded. I've had things that have occurred that might have been like, you know, taking somebody out. But the last 4 years, when I got kidney failure again, I had open heart surgery, all of those type of things have made it much more difficult in the last 4 years. So and I think that when you talk, like you talked about school, you were saying like how you were like, man, I'm done with that. I felt like I was at a certain point where I was done with struggle.
Exactly.
I thought I was like, you know, in a position of like, yo, I'm about to cruise on out of here. I'm Abdul Rahman bin Muhammad. This is smooth. This is easy. I'm gonna make it look good all the way out.
Absolutely.
And then all of a sudden, it's like the things that used to be so easy for me, it's like I'm hitting the wall, and I'm not pliable as pliable no more. I could actually feel the pain of hitting that wall and then having to sit down and think about it. So what do you think about that? What advice would you give somebody who's been lucky and blessed and
Ain't nothing happened to you by accident. You know,
Yeah, but I don't like it.
But you gotta just keep that in mind. Like nothing happened by
Nah,
accident.
everything
Like
has
and-
purpose, man.
yeah, like, and I know we've been quoting everybody, quoting
Yeah.
to death, but like my favorite, probably absolute quote, and I would tell this to my kids, not even my staff, is that there's no such thing as a tragedy, just circumstances that lead us closer to our destiny. And so
Okay.
that is
So
probably
you're saying there's something greater coming from me around the corner?
always,
Absolutely.
always, and then everything you went through, whatever happens next, you can be like, dang, I can pull from this, I can pull from this, I can pull from this. That's why.
So you need to get the camera
I
out
like
because there's
quotes. I
something
like
great about to happen.
I like quotes. So Frederick Douglass says,
Yeah.
"No struggle, no progress."
Yeah.
No struggle, no problem. I say that all the
And,
time.
and that's the reality of it, right?
Right.
Because you have that's I think is all a part of that process of
Mm-hmm.
where you going and what God has for you as you go through this journey called life. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But like even just trying to instill that into young people too is like that. Woe is me. Like you keep saying, the cavalry ain't coming to save us. I used to tell when I was coaching football, that was always my thing. Ain't nobody gonna come save us.
Ain't nobody.
You know.
Now this is another part though, and one of my greatest mentors, my Uncle Lou, he would
Mm-hmm.
always say, "Do not be a co-conspirator on your own demise."
Mm.
So a lot of times, right, we
pulling
we
ourselves
conspire
Yep.
with what was there, right? And I think instead of trying to go around it or go through it, sometimes you just got to go away from it and find your place
back.
in space. Absolutely.
I always think that I just think people know what to do. They just choose not to do. Like, I know what to do, right? Like we all know what to do. Like if you want to get in shape, I know what to do.
Yeah.
Go to the gym, right? Get a routine.
Yeah.
I want to be smarter or something. I know what to do. Study, learn it. If I wanted to get a degree, and some people, I believe, what makes it harder for people of color is that we don't have a lot of people pouring into us, or
We've been saying people of color. We talking about black people, right?
right? Yes.
Okay, I just want
black and brown people. So we don't have a
Oh,
lot
we
of
talking
people.
about brown people too? Okay.
We have a lot of people saying, "Hey, you're good, you're great," all those things. We don't have that.
Yeah.
Right? We don't have, and even if you had that, you don't have like images saying that you are, regardless of someone telling you. Like you don't turn on TV and see, us winning. People look like you winning a lot, right? So you don't have that to pull from. So what happens is that we have to be more, have more determination,
Yeah.
right? We have to have more grit. I gotta find my own motivation because it's not around me unless and it's not because your immediate family's probably torn or whatever, so no one's pouring into you,
Yeah.
right? So you have to find it in yourself. So like you see a kid like he found it in himself.
Yeah.
He's surrounded by all this stuff,
Right.
and he still want to do all that stuff. So now he's gonna be okay. But there's another kid. He probably had it all, but no one was around him saying what that lady said to him when he was 41.
Right.
What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? People checking on him. If he had what he Winston had, he'd be okay.
Yeah.
That's how I think about it, right? Because
But
some
it goes back to what I said, right? Exposure and opportunity. You
Yeah.
grew up in Harvard,
No.
right? Well,
I grew up in West
I grew
Hartford.
up right there. I
Well-
grew up right there.
Well,
I
you
grew up on Earl Street.
So I say all that to
Yeah,
say,
I'm
though-
from West Hartford, guys. I'm sorry. I'm from New York, but
But
when we
listen,
moved
though,
here,
I say all
come
that
to
to
Hartford.
say,
Yeah,
though,
I've
how
never
many
been to Hartford.
times, though, have you rolled by the Hartford or Travelers or even thought about even going up into those buildings?
No. I mean, yeah. Now I do now.
Now,
Yeah.
but back then, though,
Never.
it wasn't
understand
a
what I'm
place
saying?
for you that you could
I
go.
never. I
you
didn't
wouldn't even think of it.
No one. I bet you no kid out there you can pull them and know that we're the insurance capital. They don't even know. They have no idea about what
So
Travelers
you see what I'm
does.
saying? So the exposure and the opportunity that's
So you're
given
right
to
in
us
the
can-
mix, right
and
around
you
the
n-
corner
and
from
you're
the
not
place
even
you don't even
aware
know.
to what's going on, right? And
Yeah.
so you talk about systems and structures that do exactly what it does.
But you know that the interesting thing also is if we just focused on just our history, the more we knew about our history, just our history.
Oh, you feel great.
You would be
Oh,
exactly.
on a high every day
Exactly.
because it's so much stuff about us as black people that they try to hide from us. That like if you just got there's this guy for some reason somebody sent me an email today. Every day for a month he debunks something about black people that they lied about, and so it's like he does it every for the year, right? And so to me, it's like we got to learn more about us because if you let everybody else tell it, we were slavery,
Exactly. But that
civil
goes back to
rights.
the mindset that we were just talking
Right,
about,
right,
right?
right.
Because there's a thing I would say: if you don't know where you came from, how you know where you're going? Right?
Exactly.
When you start talking about how we were kings and queens and how
We
changes.
we created stuff. We started
Oh,
businesses.
man.
We
was
built
the best
stuff from nothing.
philosophers, right? So when we start instilling that into I think our younger kids, that it changes
That's
the
what it is.
narrative
Yeah.
on where their lives are going.
So one of the things that I hope some young people get to watch this episode, and the reason I really appreciate the two of you as guests because I think that they need to know. First of all, need to know if you can get your mindset together when you're young, you can breeze on through. You can go from and the fact that you were a principal within like 5 years of like it was like 5 or 6 years, right? That's a pretty fast thing. But the other piece of it is, to me, the takeaway I'm having is that there's as long as you here, you got a chance.
You got absolutely.
You
now,
still got a shot.
Now to that, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna just be quiet after this.
No, you don't got to be quiet. We talking.
You know, my granddad would say to me, anything worth having is worth working for.
That's right. Yeah.
Right? And these are the things, because we live in a society where as though folks don't, it ain't instilled in them that you got to work, man.
Right,
You,
right.
you know, and then it creates more value when you work for it, right? Because you're not just gonna squander that.
Yeah.
When you ain't working for nothing, you don't care what happens with it.
That's right. That's right.
And sometimes just work. Like I didn't know I'd become a principal, right? I just put my head down and worked. I actually got to a point where it's like, I just want to be with my kids. I'm gonna close this door, and I don't care what happens else in the school. I'm trying to do something right now. And when you just not afraid to work, the world opens up. Like I know it sounds crazy, but like
No,
you
not at all.
It doesn't sound
you know,
crazy.
to young people sometimes they like, just work, but it's like, just put the work in.
If you were able to tabulate, we'll use you instead of me. I'm gonna use you. If you were able to tabulate the amount of hours Zoe has worked on his craft, on being a videographer, on videotaping, editing, putting things out, they say it takes 10,000 hours to be great at something. I know Zoe for, I don't know how long I know Zoe, but I know him a long time, long enough to say that I've known him to already have done 30,000 hours. So that's the number I'm throwing out there based off of what I know.
I've never seen him without a camera.
Right. He said that. He was like,
Never.
you still have a camera? I still got it.
Never. Like every time I seen him, camera equipment, camera in his hand, something.
So one of the biggest things is finding out your purpose in this world, because once you find it out, because like it's never like you're working. It's not like you come in here and be like, damn, man.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I gotta go in here and be the Eddie King today. God man.
Right.
I don't want to do that. You know what I'm saying? I got to go do Wake Up Wednesday, man. You're like, not another Wednesday. Isn't tomorrow Wednesday?
Yeah, it is.
What time Wake Up Wednesday start?
10 o'clock.
I know.
We out
Hey,
there from 10
sometime when I come in late, I
It's-
see y'all out.
It's faithless work, though. Again, it goes back to, man, you know, loving on the people, man.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's gonna cover whatever they're going through. Because folks just want to feel heard. They just want to feel that they're loved.
Poured into
And that-
somehow.
And that changes.
So tell us about Wake Up Wednesday. What happens?
So we out there. We feed the folks.
What's for breakfast? Some eggs? We got little eggs?
Now, so what happens?
Huevos.
We really, we'll pull out the grill from time to time.
Okay.
It's
gonna be nice tomorrow.
It was cold weather, so I would go and get grinders, and it's just engaging them.
Yeah.
Right.
They know you're gonna be there, so they're coming up.
Exactly. So and it's giving them some consistency, because we have lived in a society where there was no consistency.
Right.
We just show
So
up.
you there, rain, sleet, snow, or shine,
We right there,
138 weeks.
Heard it. Right there, Doc. Right, and we're in New Haven, and we're going to Bridgeport. Now,
Okay.
you heard me say I'm chair of criminal justice for the whole state of Connecticut. So this falls under our umbrella for criminal justice.
But,
so
so this is something that you've started here in Hartford. Now it's spreading statewide.
yeah, statewide, we looking to do it national. And it's just really
You're
engaging.
the dancing guy. You're the dancing guy.
Yeah, well, we just want to make sure that folks know that they have the supports, because again, the cavalry ain't coming, so we have to show up and let folks know that.
Do other nonprofits or
So
organizations?
that's the
show
whole
up?
purpose of
Okay.
it, giving them that platform to
Yeah.
coming out, because again, you're dealing with a community that don't know
Everything
what's
that's out
available.
there. Yeah.
Exactly.
So
this
resources.
that's what it's really all about. Bring the resources to the people, and then when you do that, you allow them a seat at the table, so it ain't no excuse now. Why you ain't doing A, B, and C? We're bringing it to you right now, right?
Yeah.
So, I think it's very important, because now you don't give them no excuse, man.
I love it.
So.
I love it. Hey, I feel motivated. You mentioned
Motivational.
Watch this. Yes, that's what I was about to
Better
say.
give him one, you better
Yeah,
give
no,
him
no,
one.
these two.
Oh, you better
I'm
give
not
it-
even gonna be in
oh,
it.
yeah. Oh, yeah, me neither. That's what's watching. Let's
I
go.
feel
Let's
like,
go.
I feel like I'll body them though, but I'm gonna let them do it. I'm
said he gonna body him.
I'm gonna stay on the sideline. So every now and then we will have no, we're not gonna do a motivation off. We're gonna do something different. Yeah. So a few months ago, maybe a year ago, I started doing this workshop where it's called "Speak Life into a Brother," And so we get two men. Maybe they know each other, maybe they don't. And the whole purpose is for each man to take as much time as they need to speak life into the other man, to be able to give them motivation before we leave the show. I felt encouraged. I felt motivated just listening to both of your stories today. And I feel like I would love to hear, before we go, the two of you speak life into each other. So that we can be able to wrap this show up on a positive note. And so age before beauty, what do we want to do?
Hey man, you know, Young King, you keep shining.
Okay.
As I would say to my kids, hashtag no limit, man. And we don't say we trying.
That's right.
We don't say we can't. It's either you doing it or you're not.
That's right.
And don't let nobody ever stop you from doing what you're doing, man. And just keep shining, man.
Appreciate you, man.
Love it.
Appreciate you. I ain't gonna say young king, old king, just king, man.
Yeah.
Nothing in your life has happened by accident. Everything that you've gone through is for somebody else, man. And I greatly appreciate you being here today because this wasn't by accident. I don't think this is gonna be the last
not at all.
time
Nah,
we
I'm
ever
on
see
your
each
heels.
other, man. I'm about to say this ain't gonna be the last
So
time we see
I
each
tell
other, man.
folks I spar with champions, not to get beat up. I spar with champions because I want to be a champion.
Man. But I appreciate everything that you're doing. If nobody's ever said thank you yet, you know, because we need more folks like you. We need more people showing up. Consistency does bring safety. And when you said that about showing up 130-something weeks, 150-something weeks, like, that's just safe for the community. And so I just appreciate you for helping the community I grew up in, that sometimes I didn't always feel safe in, even though I was from here, helping us feel safer and just helping us just shine more light on the beauty that Hartford has. So keep going. Don't stop. And no place else you go is going to be by accident. So I appreciate you, man.
that, King. Bless you, man.
I just want to be 100% honest. I do feel like jumping in here.
Yeah, I know he did. He wants to so bad.
I'm just gonna. I'm gonna wrap. I'm gonna. All right.
Look.
Alonzo Lee Beckett. Alonzo
He's in.
Lee
He's locked down.
Beckett.
Locked down.
I just want to say to you, I'm very happy to be able to call you my friend. I'm very happy to be able to call you my friend, my brother. You have put, in my estimation, at least 30,000 hours into the work that you do. That shows commitment. That shows grind. That shows somebody that is committed to doing the work they do. And if we had more men in our community like you, who just show up, who come to work, who go out into the community, who give away their services, help people out, help people get a little push. If we just had more men in our community that did that type of thing, it would make a huge difference. And so as one man, like sometimes it starts off with one person. They say one man could change the world. You're the one man in this situation where when you capture these images are gonna last for. Right now, you're working on the Hartford series, right? You got the
Hartford Legends
the
series.
Hartford Legends series. You got 4 documentaries on Tubi. You got 4 more coming. And so like when people think they can't do something, they don't believe they can make something happen. What I see from you is that you just do it. I don't wear no Nikes, but you just do it. You just start doing what you have to do, and you make something happen. And so all I want to let you know is don't be deterred. Don't be prevented from being great, from showing your greatness, for allowing your true self to come out and be exposed to our community, exposed to the world. One day, they're going to speak your name when you are no longer here. You are setting things up to be able to have a legacy.
I am. That's what I'm
One
trying
day
to do.
you will not be here and your name will
Nah, you
still
ain't
be
trying, you
spoken.
doing it.
And so I just want you to know that, you know, I see you. I support you. If you ever need me, I'm a phone call away. I love you. And as I always say, never stop dreaming.
Listen,
All right.
they all wanted you, man. They was like, why you
No,
did you
they didn't want me. I'm telling you. I come hard with the love.
Oh, man, that's
all right,
beautiful.
ladies and gentlemen. This has been an excellent show. I want to thank Corey Betts and Winton Borders for coming on the show this evening.
Winton, no borders. Let's go.
No
Let's
borders.
go.
No borders.
That's it.
I want to thank you both for coming on the show this evening. Hopefully, this isn't the last time we have you on the show. The format. Only top level guests can do this format where they just talk.
No, yes, no.
No questions. We just make it happen. My name's Abdul Rahman bin Muhammad. That's Alonzo Lee Beckett.
Yes, sir.
We are out. See you guys next week.